On the way to my sister's wedding, they left me at a pharmacy after I asked for my anxiety medication. My mom scoffed, "Here comes the drama queen." My sister giggled, "Mental health isn't an excuse for attention." But when they checked in at the venue, one guest refused to enter until they spoke to me first. I, 32F, was supposed to be a bridesmaid in my sister's, Camilla, 28F, wedding last month. We live in Colorado, me in Denver, my parents in Aurora, and Camilla recently moved to Boulder with her fiancé Blake, who's a well-respected orthopedic surgeon. Growing up, I was always the sensitive one. I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember, real, clinical anxiety, diagnosed in my early 20s after years of being told I was too emotional or a little dramatic. My mom, Corinne, 61F, is a former nurse and now retired, and she still doesn't believe anxiety is a real issue. My dad passed when I was 17, and from then on, it was just us three, Mom, Camilla, and me. Camilla was always the easy child. Pretty, social, smart. She followed the rules. She was homecoming queen, got a scholarship, dated high-achieving guys, and Mom never had to worry about her. I, on the other hand, had panic attacks before big presentations and needed therapy to finish college. I took a little longer to graduate, and when I did, I became an occupational therapist, fulfilling work, but not flashy. Not surgeon fiancé flashy. Camilla's wedding was set at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. Big, lavish, planned down to the minute. My dress was custom tailored, the color scheme was a soft champagne with dusty rose, and Camilla had about 5 spreadsheets tracking every detail. It was meant to be the wedding of the year. The morning of the wedding, we were all supposed to head down together from Mom's house to the venue. I had stayed overnight there to be part of the family caravan. Camilla insisted on it, though I would have preferred to drive myself. I realized that morning that I forgot my anxiety medication. I usually take it daily, but on big days, travel, family gatherings, events, I need a dose to even function without spiraling. I called the CVS nearby and confirmed they had my prescription ready. It was 5 minutes away. I told my mom and Camilla in the car, "Hey, can we stop real quick? I need to grab my meds." Mom didn't even look at me when she replied, "Talia, we don't have time for this drama today." I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't drama. I had told her multiple times before this that I needed this medication. She knew. I wasn't asking to delay anything, I was in and out of the store in under 5 minutes. But when I walked out of that CVS, they were gone. No call. No text. No goodbye. Just, gone. At first I thought maybe they'd driven around the lot. Then I wondered if they were pranking me, though that would have been wildly out of character. After 10 minutes standing there in my heels, sweating, holding the pharmacy bag like an idiot, I checked my phone. A single message from my mother, "We're on a tight schedule. I warned you." Another from Camilla, "Mental health isn't a license to hold everyone hostage. Get an Uber. We'll see you there." I'm not sure I've ever felt more humiliated. Or more alone. I sat down on the curb and tried to slow my breathing. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open the app to call a ride. I debated not going at all. But part of me, some pathetic, loyal part, thought maybe if I showed up and didn't make a scene, I'd still be included, that the rest of the day would go smoothly. The Uber driver didn't say much. He did glance at me a few times in the rearview mirror, maybe wondering why someone in full makeup with a fancy dress bag was sitting so silently, clutching a brown paper bag like her life depended on it. When I arrived at the venue, the valet assumed I was a guest and took my bag. I stood near the entrance, trying to steady myself. The wedding party was inside already. I wasn't even sure where to go. I felt like a ghost haunting a place I didn't belong. And then, of all people, I saw her. Dr. Meena Patel. She had been my therapist during my late 20s, and had moved out of state about 2 years ago. I knew Camilla had seen her briefly for relationship issues before she met Blake, but I didn't know she'd been invited to the wedding. She spotted me across the courtyard and walked over, brow furrowed. Talia? Are you okay? I didn't mean to cry. I really didn't. But once I saw her face, a face I associated with safety, validation, non-judgment, the tears came fast. I explained what had happened in as few words as I could manage. She didn't say much. Just listened. Then she excused herself and disappeared into the venue. About 10 minutes later, everything shifted. About 10 minutes later, everything shifted. I was standing near the flower wall just outside the reception lobby, trying to clean up my mascara smudges in the reflection of a brass light fixture, when the massive double doors opened and out walked Mina, followed by a sharply dressed woman I'd later learn was the event coordinator. Behind them came my mother, with Camilla trailing slightly behind. I remember thinking they all looked uncomfortable, like kids summoned to the principal's office. Mina was calm, but you could tell she'd lit a fire under someone. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried with a kind of authority that turned heads. She was left at a pharmacy, she said to the event coordinator, who looked somewhere between apologetic and alarmed. Alone. Without notice. That is not a simple misunderstanding, it's abandonment. Mom stiffened at that word, and Camilla folded her arms across her chest, clearly annoyed. I stood frozen. This wasn't how I wanted things to unfold. I hadn't come here to create a scene. I just wanted to survive the day without being invisible. Camilla looked at me like I was holding a blade to her wedding cake. She could have called another ride sooner, she said, directing it more toward Mina than anyone else. It wasn't like she was stranded in a ditch. Mina gave her a flat look. You told her to get an Uber. On the day she was supposed to stand beside you in your wedding party. I didn't ask for her to be a bridesmaid, Camilla muttered, and that? That was the moment something cracked. Not just in me, but I think in the air around us. Like the truth had finally punched through the pretty bubble. The wedding coordinator asked if we could all step inside somewhere more private, but Mina shook her head. I think it's important that this isn't swept away in a quiet room. You didn't quietly humiliate your daughter. You left her in public. Maybe it's time you see what that looks like. The words were like ice water. The surrounding hotel staff started glancing our way. Guests passing through the lobby slowed their pace. The illusion was slipping. My mother finally turned to me. Her eyes were glassy, but not with regret. With resentment. The kind of look that said, "Look what you've done." Again. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't come here to make a scene, I said quietly. I just didn't want to be left behind. I didn't want to feel like a burden for needing basic help. Camilla scoffed. This is always how it goes. You find a way to make everything about you. That was the sentence. Not the pharmacy. Not the wedding dress fittings she made me redo. Not the dismissiveness. That line, simple and cruel, landed like a stone in my stomach. But before I could respond, someone else's voice cut in, "That's enough." It was Blake. I hadn't seen him approach. He was standing a few feet behind Camilla, arms crossed, face unreadable. You left your sister at a pharmacy? He asked Camilla directly. She opened her mouth, but he raised a hand. No. Don't spin it. Just answer me. Did you leave her there? Camilla's mouth opened and closed again. Her cheeks reddened. She said she'd be quick. Did you leave her? He repeated, his voice calm but firm. Camilla glanced at Mom, then back at Blake. Yes. The silence that followed was excruciating. Blake looked over at me, and for a moment, I saw the tiniest flicker of sympathy. Maybe he wasn't used to seeing this version of Camilla. Or maybe he'd been ignoring it for too long. Then he turned back to Camilla and said something I'll never forget. I don't think we should go through with this today. It was like the air got sucked out of the lobby. Camilla stared at him, frozen. What are you saying? I'm saying, he said carefully, if this is how you treat your own sister, on your wedding day, I have to ask myself how you'll treat me when I disappoint you. Because I will. At some point. We all do. Camilla burst into tears. Loud, theatrical tears. The kind that draw attention. Mom immediately jumped to her defense, putting an arm around her and glaring at me like I'd orchestrated all of it. Blake stepped away, hands on his hips, clearly trying to hold it together. The coordinator leaned in and whispered something to Mina, probably about relocating the drama. Mina politely declined. "I'll leave," I said, swallowing hard. "I don't want to ruin this for anyone." But Blake shook his head. "You didn't ruin anything. You just showed us something we all needed to see." Mina nodded quietly beside me. Camilla was now sobbing in Mom's arms, and every few seconds she'd say, "This isn't happening," or "She did this to me," but I wasn't listening anymore. I felt like I was outside my own body. My feet hurt, my heart was racing, and all I wanted to do was go somewhere quiet. But somehow, I wasn't crying anymore. I was just breathing. I don't remember walking out of the lobby. One minute I was standing beside Mina, staring at Camilla's tear-smeared face. The next, I was outside, in the shaded garden area beside the ballroom, sitting on a low stone bench near the roses. The sounds of the hotel faded into a low murmur behind me. I wasn't even sure how long I'd been there when I heard the soft shuffle of someone approaching. It was Mina. She sat beside me without saying anything for a while. Just pulled a tissue from her bag and handed it over, though my tears had long dried. I finally said, "I didn't want this." "I know," she said gently. "And I don't think anyone who was really watching would believe otherwise." There was a long pause. "I keep thinking maybe I should have kept quiet," I admitted. Just smiled, gone through the motions, let her have her day. Maybe none of this would have happened. Mina looked at me like she was weighing her words. "I've known your sister a long time. Not well, but enough to say this: if this was all it took to break the illusion, it was never going to last. You didn't ruin her day, Talia. You exposed how fragile her version of it really was. It's strange how hearing something said plainly, something you know deep down, can hit with such clarity." Still, I wasn't ready to believe I was innocent. I asked her the question that had been gnawing at me since the parking lot: "Do you think I was asking too much?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked ahead at a couple walking hand in hand across the lawn, then said softly, "Talia, asking to be treated with basic respect isn't asking too much. Picking up your medication is not a disruption. And telling people when you're struggling isn't attention-seeking. It's honesty. You've spent your life adjusting your volume so they don't feel uncomfortable. All you did today was speak at your natural volume. And they couldn't handle it." I don't know why that hit so hard. Maybe because it was true. I've spent so much of my life shrinking. Quieting my symptoms, hiding my panic, masking my discomfort because I didn't want to be the problem. And when I finally didn't, they made me one. We sat there a while longer, and eventually she stood. "Do you want to stay here, or should we go somewhere quieter?" she asked. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to know what was happening inside, if Blake was really calling off the wedding, if my mom was still trying to salvage it, if Camilla was screaming into some bridal pillow. But another part of me, the part that had been fighting to feel safe all morning, just wanted stillness. "I think I'd like to leave," I said. She nodded. We walked back toward the front, past white folding chairs lined up for the ceremony that now might not happen. The guests were being shuffled inside the venue for drinks. The air was thick with awkward smiles and whispered updates. No one said anything to me. A few avoided my eyes. One or two looked at me with something close to curiosity, like I was a living headline from a tabloid they weren't supposed to stare at. At the curb, I called an Uber. While we waited, Mina asked if I had somewhere to stay. I told her I had a reservation at a small inn about 20 minutes away, in Manitou Springs. I had booked it myself weeks ago, not wanting to stay at the Broadmoor even then, just in case. She nodded approvingly. "Good. That's smart." When the car arrived, I turned to thank her. She put a hand on my shoulder and said, "Don't let this moment teach you the wrong lesson." "What do you mean?" Don't let their discomfort convince you that you were wrong for existing honestly. That's what people like your mother and sister do. They twist the narrative until you're apologizing for breathing. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. The Uber driver, a quiet woman in her 50s named Jeanette, must have sensed something had happened. She didn't ask questions. Just gave me a bottle of water and adjusted the AC. We drove in silence. I stared out the window as the mountains passed by, their ridges jagged against the overcast sky. I didn't cry. I didn't check my phone. I just watched the road. When I arrived at the inn, it was quiet. Quaint. There were wind chimes somewhere in the distance. I checked in without fanfare, got my key, and made my way to a little room on the second floor that smelled faintly of cedar and lavender. I dropped my bag. Took off the dress. Hung it over the chair and stared at it for a long time. The irony wasn't lost on me. That I had dressed up to be part of something I was never really invited into. That I'd altered myself, literally and metaphorically, to fit into a role I was never meant to play. I showered. Sat by the window. Opened a journal I brought but rarely used. And that's when the messages started coming. I didn't open the first message when it came in. I just watched the screen light up with my mother's name and let it fade away again. Then a second. Then a third. All three were from her. Then two from Camilla. I took my time. I wasn't ready yet. Instead, I changed into a hoodie and leggings, walked to the little garden patio outside my room, and sat with a cup of chamomile tea the innkeeper offered me with a kind smile and no questions. When I finally checked the messages, I expected guilt-tripping, maybe another round of justifications. But they surprised me. Mom, we need to talk. I didn't expect things to go this far. Camilla, Blake's not answering my calls. Thanks for nothing. Mom, you embarrassed your sister in front of her guests. You could have waited until after the wedding. This was cruel. Camilla, I hope you're proud of yourself. There it was. Not remorse. Not reflection. Just blame. Even now. My hands didn't shake this time. I didn't feel that hot rush of shame I usually get when someone's mad at me. I just felt done. I didn't respond that night. But I did open my laptop. A few weeks before the wedding, Camilla had asked me to help her draft her wedding website bio. She said she didn't have time, and you're good with words, right? She sent me their old draft, and I cleaned it up, made it charming, uploaded a few photos she forwarded, and handled the RSVP link setup. She never changed the admin access. I sat there, tea in hand, looking at the screen. And I did something I hadn't planned. Not cruel. Not even dramatic. Just honest. I logged in. Under our story, I replaced the curated fairy tale paragraph with a single sentence. Due to recent events, the wedding of Camilla Adler and Blake R. has been postponed indefinitely. Then I added a second sentence. Just one more. We appreciate your understanding, and ask that you refrain from contacting the couple directly. I didn't say more. I didn't air dirty laundry or write some scathing reveal. I just took control of the narrative before they could. By morning, the texts had turned more frantic. Camilla's tone had shifted, from accusatory to panicked. Camilla, you changed the website? Are you kidding me? Take it down right now. Camilla, I swear, if you don't fix this, Mom, Talia, this is not your place. Let Camilla handle her relationship privately. That's when I decided it was time for my response. I sent one message. Calm. Simple. I will no longer participate in pretending everything is fine to protect people who hurt me. You left me behind, again. This is my boundary now. No apology. No opening for debate. Just the truth. They didn't reply. And I think that was the moment I finally felt free. 3 weeks later, I got an email from Blake. It was short, polite, and careful. Hi Talia, I hope you're well. I just wanted to say thank you for being honest that day. It helped me see things more clearly than I had in a long time. I've decided to take some time away to figure things out. I don't know what's next, but I'm grateful you spoke up. Take care. Blake. I didn't reply. He didn't need me to. Some things don't need closure, they just need clarity. As for Camilla, she went back to Scottsdale, where she started doing PR work for a lifestyle brand. She posted a long, overly filtered Instagram post about growth through pain and thanked her support circle. My name wasn't included. I didn't expect it to be. My mom hasn't texted since that final exchange. I heard through an old family friend that she tells people Talia had a breakdown around the wedding, but she's doing better now. The narrative she's always preferred: quiet, manageable, pitying. Let her have it. I no longer need her version of the story. Instead, I built a different circle. I started attending a small peer group for women dealing with family estrangement and mental health stigma. I see a new therapist. I talk to people who get it. And last month, I hosted my own birthday brunch for the first time in 10 years. No family. Just friends who showed up, brought too many muffins, and asked me how I was really doing. When I told them the pharmacy story, someone said, "That's wild." Someone else said, "That's abusive." But the most healing response came from the woman sitting across from me, who simply said, "You didn't deserve that. And you handled it better than most would." For the first time in years, I believed it. I'm not perfect. I still flinch when my phone buzzes. I still hesitate before sharing too much. But I'm no longer trying to fit myself into someone else's idea of a good daughter or easy sister. I'm Talia. And that's enough.